Coming up on News 11, New York Beer Project is set to pay $225,000 in disability lawsuit. A United Airlines pilot is forced to unexpectedly turn his plane around. And South Korea is struggling with wildfires. All this and more, News 11 starts right now. Good evening and welcome back to News 11. I'm Julia Skiba.
And I'm Jenna Polito.
So we have a lot of exciting stories to cover, so let's get started with your local news. Two Silver Creek residents recently brought their frustrations about unkempt properties to the village board. Anna Fredrickson, a Silver Creek resident of more than 4 decades, focused her frustration on vehicles that have been parking over curbs and sidewalks. She also criticized businesses operating in a residential neighborhood and later complained about trash and leaves in yards. Martha Boudet was next to speak, who is resident of the town of Hanford. She presented Code Enforcement Officer John Kennedy with several locations in the village of Silver Creek that are not up to par with the rest of the neighborhood, highlighting homes along Route 5 and 20 that are in despair, water damaged, and collecting trash. Boutet also questioned why the village was not capitalizing on the prime location along the water. Members of the village board thanks to the residents who spoke and sympathized with the frustrations caused by the situation.
This past Thursday, the legislature's Audit and Control Committee for Chautauqua County was leading against an increase in the county's sales tax rate. Legislators from Fredonia, Ellington, Jamestown, and Westfield discussed whether or not to increase the county's sales tax in order to increase its funding to other local municipalities. Since 2016, Chautauqua County has seen a 1% increase in their sales tax rate, which currently sits at 8%, with 3% going to the county and the remaining percent going towards the funding of towns, villages, and cities. Many of the legislators voted against an increase, while Fred Larson of Jamestown argued that the county should consider giving more revenue to towns, villages, and cities, especially now that many are facing budget challenges and an increase in property taxes. Many also stated the possibility of federal cuts, which would impact the county's budget and potentially cause over $38 million in federal aid to be lost. Though the Audit and Control Committee has voted against increasing the sales tax revenue, the full county legislature must vote on it today.
Chautauqua County health officials believe that it is only a matter of time until measles reaches this region. They strongly encourage parents to make sure their children are vaccinated. So far, there have been 3 cases recorded in New York State, all in the downstate region. Chautauqua County has a measles vaccine rate of 83%, which is more than the state average, but could still pose problems for the county. Measles is one of the most contagious communicable diseases. Dr. Michael Falk, the chief medical officer, advises that measles has very significant long-term effects and can be deadly. Falk tells any parent who is second-guessing getting their child the vaccine to talk to a medical professional about it. They are also encouraging vaccines among our more isolated communities, such as the Amish.
In response to the ongoing financial crisis in Dunkirk, Senator George Borrello announced he will sponsor legislation to authorize the creation of a financial control board. This board will be tasked with providing management and oversight of the city's finances. Borrello said that the financial situation has reached a point of crisis, highlighting, quote, structural deficits, mounting debt, poor oversight, and delayed audits threatening the city's future viability, end quote. Borrello has had many conversations with the mayor, city council members, county and state leaders, as well as constituents who are concerned about the future of the city. He is trying to keep the project under local control. However, with how serious the crisis is, it is proving to be harder than originally thought. Borrello has said that he will, quote, introduce legislation in the coming days to authorize the creation of a finance authority that will bring out much needed structure to the city's financial operations while supporting, not replacing, local leadership, end quote.
Threats and violence led to the arrest of 2 people in Fredonia on Friday. According to the Fredonia Police Department press release, officers were required to assist the Salvation Army Domestic Violence Unit. Staff members were attempting to assist 2 people with domestic violence issues on Clinton Street. While doing so, the parties became combative, threatening the Salvation Army staff and requiring a request from the Fredonia Police Department. According to the FPD, quote, upon arrival, police officers immediately were received with threatening and combative behavior while attempting to manage the incident. 26-year-old Cody Cush became combative with officers, at which time 27-year-old Hannah Leidsfer punched an officer in the face. Both subjects were taken into custody and transported to the Fredonia Police Department, end quote. Both were charged with obstructing government administration, among other individual charges, and will be arraigned at a later date.
A 90-year-old U.S. Air Force veteran who was working as a cart pusher to make ends meet is now getting the chance to retire, thanks to a viral GoFundMe. Dylan McCormick told former news anchor Karen Swenson that he needed $2,500 a month to live, but only received $1,100 from Social Security, so he had to work. Swenson shared his story and launched a GoFundMe on Memorial Day. Within 24 hours, donations poured in and more than $220,000 were raised. She says, quote, that's enough for McCormick to retire comfortably if he chooses to, end quote. The fundraiser is now closed, and Swenson thanked donors for giving the hero the dignity and rest he deserves.
Western New York United States Postal Service workers are worried about the potential privatization of the sector. Protesters gathered on Elmwood Avenue on Sunday to show their concern. Along with other federal cuts, the Trump administration has been considering transferring the department to an independent organization. Many employees have expressed concern about large-scale layoffs. The potential move to privatization would make the USPS service essentially the same as FedEx. This could create a cost barrier to customs as well as a decrease in reliability. It could also have an impact on future elections in terms of the integrity of mail-in ballots.
The U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has announced a $225,000 settlement with New York Beer Project after 2 former bartenders were unlawfully fired due to their medical conditions. One bartender, who had been diagnosed with cancer, was left off of the schedule for months before learning he'd been let go. Another, who experienced seizures but was cleared by a doctor to return to work, was also kept off the schedule and later fired. According to the EEOC, neither bartender asked for special accommodations. Both were ready and able to work. Officials say the terminations violated the Americans with Disabilities Act and were based on harmful stereotypes, not facts. As part of the settlement, New York Beer Project must implement new anti-discrimination policies, train staff on ADA compliance, and appoint a coordinator to handle disability-related matters. The EEOC says this case is a reminder that employers cannot make decisions based on assumptions about someone's health.
The University at Buffalo School of Nursing has started using virtual reality headsets in the classroom. The goal of the headsets is for students to get exposed to patient care without all of the resources required to simulate real-life cases. Kelly Foltz-Ramos, the director of Simulation Innovation, states, quote, it gives them a realistic experience and it's fun, end quote. Students are able to develop a better understanding of caring for rural and underserved communities. The VR program is called UbiSim, and professors are able to prompt students and to control the patients in the scenario. Feedback from both professors and students have been positive, and UB plans to continue implementing virtual reality in their nursing program.
New York State Governor Kathy Hochul is letting go some of the threats she made that would impact future job prospects for state prison guards who were fired for going on strike. Approximately 2,000 correction officers were terminated after violating the state's Taylor Law when they failed to return to work after the prison guard strikes. Governor Hochul since then has created an executive order that bans these terminated officers from working for any other state agency in the future, strips them of their status as peace officers, and would disqualify them from continuing their careers as corrections officers for any counties as well. She even blacklisted some of them from civil service jobs to keep them from being hired for jobs in any municipality, including towns, villages, and school districts. Many senators were concerned with this executive order, saying that it may be misplaced anger and it was an unfair and intense punishment regarding the strike due to dangerous working conditions. Hochul's office stated that the governor indicated that her executive order was intended to be temporary and she will not seek to renew it after 30 days when it will expire. Hochul's office also provided a letter sent by the state's Commissioner of Homeland Security, Jackie Bray, where he stated, quote, "The suspension and modification of certain state and local laws to prohibit the hiring of former corrections officers who separated from their employment with DOCCS in connection with the illegal strike is temporary. These provisions of the executive order expire on April 9th, and these officers have had or will have their peace office training certificate decertified as a result of their conduct," end quote. And when we return, we'll have your national stories. We'll be right back.
To Sofia and Gabriel, Miss Flores, my little flowers. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love, so you can take me with you wherever you go, near or far. These stitches and threads join us together. Me, your mother, and both of you. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you as you bring our colorful stories to the world.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly and put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
The Trump administration has defended Columbia University graduate and pro-Palestinian activist Mohammed Khalil's deportation, arguing that he did not reveal connections to two organizations in his application to become a permanent U.S. resident. Khalil failed to state on his green card application that he had previously worked for the Syria office of the British Embassy in Beirut and was a member of the UNRWA for Palestinian refugees in the Near East. This has been a point of contention from America and Israeli politicians who accuse it of anti-Semitism. Khalil was an unpaid intern with UNRWA in 2023, but was never on staff. The government claims that Khalil sought to procure an immigration benefit by fraud or willful misinterpretation of material fact. The Trump administration initially said Khalil was a threat to U.S. security, citing a law that allows non-citizens to be deported if their presence has, quote, potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States, end quote. Khalil's attorney argued the new justification to deport him is tenuous, as it recognizes that the initial charges are unsustainable. His immigration proceedings are separate from the federal action challenging his detention, and the government's immigration fraud charges must be brought before an immigration court, which may eventually decide to deport him.
Columbia University has announced new policies, including restrictions on demonstrations and a review of its Middle East curriculum. This comes after the Trump administration revoked $400 million in federal funding because of the campus protests. The administration demanded many changes, some including the banning of masks, empowered campus law enforcement, and implement new rules for protests. Columbia was the first university to see its funding cut over pro-Palestinian demonstrations. The university has been the center of many protests, encampments, and arrests around this issue for the past almost 2 years. The university's Board of Trustees sent out a letter to the school body to announce the changes. The board believes that these changes being made align with the school's values and are the right step forward. The New York Civil Liberties Union believes that the freezing of the national funds is unconstitutional and coerces colleges to censor speech that does not align with MAGA ideals.
Last month, the Texas A&M Board of Regents banned all drag shows on campus. However, a judge temporarily lifted the ban. The Board of Regents stated that drag shows will violate President Trump's executive order of, quote, gender ideology, end quote. The Texas A&M Queer Empowerment Council has been holding an annual drag show called Draggyland, but it was forced to cancel this year. The group protested and stated that the cancellation of the show was a violation of their First Amendment rights. U.S. District Judge Lee H. Rosenthal said the students' claim was valid and the drag ban was temporarily lifted, allowing students to continue with the show.
Last Sunday, a high school basketball coach was fired for violently yanking the hair of their star player. After a hard loss for the Northville Falcons, senior student Haley Monroe stood with her teammate while crying. Falcons coach Jim Zolo proceeded to approach from behind her and pulled on her ponytail before yelling at her. News of the incident soon spread as the school district was quick to release a public statement. On Saturday, the school's official social media posted, quote, "The Northville School District is aware of and deeply disturbed by the conduct of the coach of the girls' varsity basketball team," end quote. Shortly following this, the coach issued his own apology to news reporters, saying, quote, "As a coach, under no circumstances is it acceptable for me to put my hands on a player," end quote. Since then, the school has yet to make any additional statements on the incident.
A United Airlines Boeing 787 jetliner flying from Los Angeles to Shanghai had to turn around last weekend after it was discovered that one of the pilots did not have his passport after the plane had already taken off. About 2 hours after takeoff, the plane containing 257 passengers and 13 cabin crew members on board had to turn around. The flight was redirected to San Francisco, where it landed around 5 p.m. local time. United released a statement saying that they arranged for a new crew to take their customers to their destination and that all customers were provided with meal vouchers and compensation. The flight took off again around 9 p.m. and reached Shanghai about 6 hours behind schedule. Many passengers were frustrated, however, others were appreciative of the airline's honesty and transparency with the situation.
Stars Denzel Washington and Jake Gyllenhaal have made history on Broadway. Their production of Othello at the Barrymore Theater has now become Broadway's top-grossing play of all time. It has now generated $2.8 million with 8 preview performances, exceeding the record recently held by Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which grossed $2.7 million in December of 2023. Washington, who is now 70, recalls when he first played Othello while in college at Fordham University and how different playing the role is now compared to when he was 22. He said, quote, "I know a lot less now. I thought I knew everything then. I didn't really like the part because I wasn't wise enough to understand it. Now I understand it's really about a bond, you know, that these characters have. He loves not wisely but too well," end quote. Both Washington and Gyllenhaal are thrilled about the play's success. And when we return, Kellyanne joins us with her sports update, and we'll have your first look at the weather. Stay tuned.
When you think of the local lowdown, what do you think of?
Well, when I think of the local lowdown, it's the live music that we have played in the studio.
It's gotta be the laughs we shared. The memorable moments during the whole thing. Oh my God. so fun.
The local lowdown for me is the people behind the scenes, the amazing team that we have making the show.
Oh, it's gotta be exploring all sorts of genres and music I've never heard before.
Oh, easy. Going out to shows and talking to artists and getting the latest news on what they have planned for the future.
It's about these artists, man. Giving them a platform to showcase what they've worked so hard on and show their music to the community. It's all about supporting the local scene of music to keep it running for years to come. And of course, the band merch. You can't forget about the merch.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
So what's going on in sports, Kellyanne?
Thanks, Jules. The Fredonia softball team is coming off a trip to Florida over spring break, where they ended their week with 2 wins. They closed their annual trip with a 1-0 win over Farmingdale State and a 7-5 win over Trinity College on Saturday. After 10 straight losses to open their season, these wins were a much-needed relief for the team. The 1 run scored during the first game came from Brooke Cladwell. Notable pitching performances came from Kendall Phillips and Sabrina Edwards-Smith. The Blue Devils play next against Hilbert College on April 1st at 3 p.m. The Buffalo Sabres also had an exciting win last night over the Ottawa Senators. Dylan Cousins made his highly anticipated return to Buffalo after being traded to the Senators, where he was welcomed back with a touching tribute video. Buffalo goals were scored by Jack Quinn, Jacob Bernard Docker, and Tage Thompson. Goaltender James Reimer recorded 30 saves to secure the 3-2 win. The Sabres play next Friday against the Pittsburgh Penguins at 7 p.m. And now I'm going to toss it over to Jules for your weather report.
So today we saw a mild winter day with snow showers throughout the morning and a high of 35 degrees. As we head into the night, we will see some clearer skies and a low of 26 degrees. Thursday, we will hopefully see it warm up a bit with a high of 49 degrees throughout the day and dropping down to 34 at night. We will see some sun throughout the day and a 14% chance of rain at night. We should see a warm weekend as well, so stay tuned for your weekend weather. And when we return, we will have your international headlines. We'll be right back.
We've been down there. You gotta do the same. Post office. All you do is sign. So don't get nervous. Sign your name. For selective service. It takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. For selective service.
Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you've got to register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency.
So if you're 18 now, Selective Service, you gotta get down to the post office.
Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law.
Takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. Selective
Most of my family, they never graduated high school or even let alone go to college, so I'm trying to break that barrier. Every day after work, went straight to school, studied hard, and it paid off. I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me. The high school diploma is just added to the confidence, and now I feel unstoppable.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
On Sunday, the U.S. and Ukrainian delegation discussed proposals to protect energy facilities and critical infrastructure as a diplomatic approach to the end of 3 years of war. Ukraine's President Zelensky said his country's delegation to Sudan's talks was working in a, quote, completely constructive manner, end quote. Last week, Putin agreed with Trump's proposal for Russia and Ukraine to stop attacks on each other's energy infrastructure for 30 days. The U.S. hopes to reach a more broad ceasefire within the coming weeks and a target truce agreement by April 20th. At the moment, Britain and France lead the European efforts to support Ukraine, both militarily and logistically, with several countries announcing plans to increase defense spending as they try to reduce reliance on the U.S.
Chad has condemned a senior Sudanese general's threat to target its airports, calling it, quote, a declaration of war. The Sudanese general Yasser al-Adda said the UAE was using Chad's airports to deliver weapons to the paramilitary rapid support forces in a speech on Sunday evening. However, this is recurring as the Sudanese army has repeatedly accused the United Arab Emirate of supporting its rival throughout the 2-year civil war, which was developed into the world's worst humanitarian crisis. Charges that the UAE has denied, but that UN experts and US lawmakers have found to be true.
South Korea is struggling to contain wildfires in the country's southeast. More than 24 fires broke out over the weekend, and the death toll currently stands at 400,000 residents, and thousands of residents have been forced to evacuate. 9,000 firefighters, police, and civil servants were dispatched to fight the fires around the area. The fires have been confirmed to have started from a lawnmower which ignited Friday afternoon in Sancheong, about 300 miles south of the nation's capital, Seoul. On Sunday, Choi Sang-mak, the acting prime minister, ordered the Forest Service to, quote, to do everything possible to evacuate residents and secure the safety of the workers fighting the fires, end quote. And after the break, a look at Robert De Niro's love for his daughter, Ryan Reynolds' request to be dropped from the Baldoni lawsuit, and an update on Bella Ramsey. We'll be right back.
We've been down there. You gotta do the same. Post office, all you do is sign. So don't get nervous. Sign your name. For selective service, it takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. For selective service.
Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you've got to register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency.
So if you're 18 now, Selective Service, you gotta get down to the post office.
Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law.
Takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. Selective Service.
Oscar-winning actor Robert De Niro is embracing all that fatherhood has to offer as he spends time with his 2-year-old daughter, Gia. The actor opened up about spending quality time with his daughter, revealing that he and his daughter love to watch kids' TV and internet shows together. Miss Rachel, The Wiggles, and Blippi are just a few of the shows De Niro listed off. De Niro and his girlfriend Tiffany Chen welcomed Gia in 2023 and is his 7th child. He shares 2 adult children with his ex-wife Daphne Abbott and 2 adult sons with ex-girlfriend Toukie Smith. De Niro was also previously married to actress Gracie Hightower before they split in 2018, and both share a son and daughter. In an interview, the 81-year-old said, quote, she's such an adorable baby, so sweet, and when I look at her, everything else goes away. So it's a great joy and relief to just be with her in the moment, end quote.
Ryan Reynolds has requested to be dropped from the Justin Baldoni lawsuit. Actor and director Justin Baldoni has been in a legal battle with Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds' wife, over accusations of inappropriate texting. Actor Ryan Reynolds has since made statements about the situation, supporting the side of Lively. Baldoni has fired back in response and brought Reynolds into the lawsuit for defamation. Ryan Reynolds then asked to be dropped from the case, claiming he had nothing to do with the case and he was merely supporting someone. The actor's lawyers have also made the claim that Baldoni's lawsuit, quote, does not even pretend to be tied to any legal claims, end quote.
Bella Ramsey has recently shared their autism diagnosis with the world. The Last of Us star sought out a diagnosis during the first season of the show after a crew member with an autistic child assumed that Ramsey had autism as well. They went on to share that their autism diagnosis has helped to improve and shape their acting, stating, quote, I've always been watching and learning from people. Having to learn more manually how to socialize and interact with the people around me has helped me with acting, end quote. They added that having a routine and set of rules also helps, saying, quote, I have a call time and I'm told what to wear, how to stand, where to stand, and what to eat, end quote. Ramsey says that the diagnosis has been freeing because it, quote, enables me to walk through the world with more grace towards myself about not being able to do the easy everyday tasks that everyone else seems able to do, end quote. Ramsey is best known for HBO's The Last of Us series, which is based on a popular video game by the same name. The series also stars Pedro Pascal, and season 2 is set to debut in April. So now I'm going to toss it over to Jenna for our end of the weekend weather. How does it look, Jenna?
Thank you, Jules. Friday, we will see a typical spring day with a high of 55 and a low of 50. We will see cloudy skies with some sun as we head into the afternoon, and night we will see a 60% chance of rain showers. Saturday will warm up even more with a high of 61 degrees and sunny skies. Once again, in the afternoon, we will see a 52% chance of rain, and as we head into the night, and the rain will continue as we cool down to a low of 49 degrees. Sunday, we'll see another very rainy day with a high of 60 degrees and a 73% chance of rain starting in the morning and continuing throughout the night as we drop down to 46 degrees. So don't forget your umbrella because we will see a lot of rain. That's all we have for you weekend weather. Back to you.
That is all for News 11. Thank you to our behind-the-scenes crew. We'll be back next week.
And as always, thank you to everyone watching at home. Have a great night.